On the call, were you? The president, you didn't listen on President Trump's call and President Zelensky's call?
I did not.
You've never talked with Chief of Staff Mulvaney?
I never did.
You never met the president?
That's correct.
You had 3 meetings again with Zelensky and it didn't come up.
And 2 of those they had never heard about, as far as I know.
And President
There was no reason for it to
President
come up.
Zelensky never made an announcement. This is what I can't believe, and you're their star witness. Ambassador, you...
Okay, so the impeachment proceedings have started, and we need to talk about it very quickly. I'm going to get back to that clip in a brief moment, but I want to give my thoughts on it first because I think it's actually smart that the impeachment proceedings are being streamed to the public because I can stream it live and talk about it on my Twitch, which is great, but also because this entire process is political and should work to convince the American people of Trump's corruption and crimes. However, I don't know if it actually will have that intended effect because the right-wing media apparatus and the right-wing political actors are actually very effective and very successful at immediately seizing control of the narrative. They do this by, one, being entertaining and doing a bunch of circus tricks, essentially, like Jim Jordan speaking as fast as possible and gish galloping, or Devin Nunes straight up lying with right-wing conspiracies, and then those clips get picked up by Fox News, and those clips get promoted by people like Representative Matt Gaetz, whose tweet I was just looking at a brief moment ago. And the reality is, this is going to be effective, I think. This is actually going to change this is actually going to solidify Republicans in their pre-existing biases. Now, the idea that William Taylor doesn't know anything. Well, that's really interesting considering the fact that there are people who have spoken to Donald Trump. There are lots of people who were in the room. There are lots of people who have spoken to Donald Trump directly that could testify. Mulvaney, one of them, Bolton being another one. But, of course, the White House has ordered them not to speak in these hearings, which is precisely why we have to rely on the 2 star witnesses in this impeachment sham, as the Republicans are trying to turn this around to. Just absolute insanity. Now, having said all of this, I do think that the impeachment processes have been relatively boring thus far. I think that it also highlights, once again, the gigantic divide between the left and the right. However, it also shows the different tactics. Democrats are they're treating this as as though it's a serious judicial case. It's not. It's political. Impeachment is a political process. We already know, we can reasonably decide already that members in the House and the Democratic Party are probably going to vote a certain way and Republicans are going to vote another way. I think the most important part here is to convince the American public, and I am afraid that the Democrats, being extremely boring and also exclusively hyper-focusing on the Ukraine stuff, are kind of throwing the game away. They're kind of throwing this a little bit. If they wanted to hit Trump, there are multiple different avenues that they could hit Trump on outside of Ukraine, regardless of the open and shut case that the Ukrainian quid pro quo actually is. Trump has done a number of awful and illegal things. The obvious reality here is that corruption, however, exists on both sides, and that is precisely why I think it's a little difficult to establish a case for Trump breaking the rules, since he can always claim that everyone else is doing it, and even if he can't find someone else on the Democratic side doing it, he could just lie, and he has. And we know that this is effective. We know that whataboutism is effective. The perfect example of this is the violation of the Emoluments Clause, which is, again, another open and shut case for Donald Trump, not giving away his assets and still maintaining control over his assets and making money from his assets and increasing his wealth while he is in the Oval Office. Now, Trump can easily turn around and say, well, Barack Obama actually executed a Netflix deal or a book deal while he was the president. Yeah. Again, 2 wrongs don't make a right. That's whataboutism. But it is an effective narrative. It is an effective rhetorical tool to make it seem like you have won the conversation. You've won the argument. And it absolutely works. So I think the points that I want to make here as far as the impeachment is that I think Democrats need to seize control of the narrative as best as possible. I think the Democrats need to be a little bit more camera friendly, and I think they need to get their slam dunks in. And I don't know if they're doing that correctly. And quite frankly, the right-wing media apparatus is right now doing a little bit better of a job controlling the narrative and spreading lies, even in this incredibly open and shut case that Donald Trump wanted the Ukrainian authorities, a foreign government, to investigate his political opponent, and he was willing to not give military aid to Ukraine. He was willing to withhold military aid to Ukraine. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you think? I'm Hasan Piker. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And this has been The Breakdown.